Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is bring about conversations of a psychological, mental health, emotional health paradigm. We try to do that several times per week. Usually, several times per week, we get the ability to do that. We got over 1,200 of these available for your listening pleasure. We try to be here as often as we can. If you are looking for relationship coaching and or marriage coaching and or the ability to get your relationship back on track, would love to be of assistance to you in that way. A couple of things you can do: you can reach out through Twitter at PO Perception. You can reach out in the About Me section of this YouTube page. Either one will lead you into contact with me or a member of my team. We can make something happen there. The first thing to think about in this is, which this is reasons that can keep you single. Two-part series. First is being cynical. Look, we've all been hurt. We've all had moments where someone's let us down. We've all had moments where someone has been unkind. We might have even dealt with a person with a personality disorder or other mental illness challenges that make us wonder whether or not love even exists. And the answer is it does for every person. But it's a matter of finding what your needs are, being able to articulate them well, being in the right place at the right time, and ready to receive someone who is willing to be loving in the way that you need it, and being willing to be open to that person. So it does take multifacets to be able to make that happen. And sometimes what happens is we become so set in our ways in terms of I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too busy, I'm too whatever. We put labels upon ourselves. And then the other part that becomes a problem is ultimately the standards we set for the other person. We can come up with many things that, we look at them and we say, well, their teeth are crooked, or they don't look like they have a college degree, or they look like this, or they act like this, and we disqualify a person without really knowing them. And so that becomes problematic for a number of reasons, not limited to the fact of until you know someone's story, until you've walked in their shoes, you don't necessarily know what makes them do what they do or behave the way they behave. It doesn't necessarily mean they're good for you or bad for you, but until you have more information, eliminating a person based on those standards can sometimes be a difficult thing. And the other thing too is having really narrow deal breakers. So obviously we should all have deal breakers. If a person has, for example, an addictive personality type and addiction doesn't work for you, or if a person has a history of infidelity and you've been cheated on, so that's going to make you nervous around them or whatever, certainly having those deal breakers is important so that you're maintaining a certain level of autonomy within your own relationship life. But at the same time, if you have too many deal breakers, or if your deal breakers are rigid because of what other people have done to you versus them being deal breakers you might have accepted at an earlier point in your life, it can cause you to miss a great relationship. Next being said is unhealed trauma or unresolved trauma. Look, if you haven't relanguaged some of the worst things that's ever happened to you in your life relationally, then obviously you may end up holding yourself back from, you know, um, connecting with somebody on a deeper level relationally, and it can be super toxic. It can be super uncomfortable. It can be unfriendly. It can be annoying, frustrating, and all points in between. Not because it necessarily is a bad thing completely, but because if you haven't dealt with your trauma, you're going to expect the other person to know what your traumas are without necessarily talking them through with that individual, working through them for yourself, and or putting too much pressure on a new relationship in a way that doesn't necessarily go in a positive direction. And so that can be super non-beneficial. The next is self-esteem. Your view of yourself will directly impact the relationship that you're capable of attraction. And so if your self-esteem is low, you're going to attract a person who might also have low self-esteem, or a person who has you know, a nature that may not be healthy for you. If your self-esteem is too high, or you're border on arrogance, then you might actually be chasing people away who, if you were more approachable, they would be too, and the relationship gets into a more meaningful directive there. So it really depends on finding what your needs are, knowing what your needs are, and identifying them, and then talking them through first within yourself, And then with the person that's in front of you, you don't know what a person is or isn't willing to do for a relationship until you ask them or until they're right in front of you and you're trying to navigate that relationship. So always be as open and flexible as you can be without losing your self identity. And that can be an interesting balance in and of itself. Where's my self identity versus my flexibility? That can be an interesting challenge. So all of that can be helped with relationship coaching. I encourage you to reach out. Please keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.